What's up, Facebook? Ty Crowder here with Credit Suite. Today, we're talking about your business name. What we're actually going to be talking about is how much money your business name can actually cost you. Not just because you're losing customers because of what's in your name, but you're also making it way more difficult for you to get the money you need. Look, the name of your business is way more important than you may think it is. And you probably went through a lot of work to choosing the name of your company and going through the process to make sure that the URL was available amongst many other things. But here's the problem. If you don't have the right name for your company, not only could it repel or make it more difficult to obtain customers, but it could definitely, without a doubt, make it more difficult to get the money that you need, whether it be business credit and or financing. So today, this is exactly what I'm going to do. I want to talk about how you can avoid the pitfalls when naming your business so you don't lose out on any money during the recession, even after the recession, because again, this is so crucial when it comes to SIC codes, NAICS codes, all of which we're going to dive into today. So my goal here is by the end of this, you're going to know exactly what you need to know of what names create a high risk scenario for you to make sure that your name fits all the bill that it or fits the bill that it should, or possibly consider a change if you need to make the change earlier in your business before it costs you too much. Merchant accounts, bank accounts, loans, credit cards, supplier credit. It's on large part based on something as simple as the name you choose. So I'm going to teach you how to do this the right way so you can get the most amount of money for your business. And Aaron says B&B management. Love it. Let's talk a little bit about that. Throw in some of the names of your company so we can actually take a look and do a little bit of analysis on you as well. So one of the first things is you don't want a name that's too generic, right? We don't want to have something where nobody understands what we do, where most people aren't going to bother checking you out online to figure it out. It's a lost chance if you're not using your name to give some kind of idea of what you do. Now, there's two ways you could go here. You could choose a hyper-specific name that's very, very much descriptive of what you do. Or you could choose something that's too general where it doesn't have an idea at all of what you do. So let's take a look here at what Aaron said here in B&B Management. B&B Management, he went on the more general route. The great thing about B&B Management is that this is going to make it easier to get credit and financing because it's such a general name. But the problem with a name like Credit Suite is that Credit Suite, the benefit is that people have a pretty good idea what we do. We work some which way or form with credit. And we work with a suite of products that results with credit. Our name literally is a descriptor of what we do. But the problem is it's harder for us to get credit and financing for our actual business. So you want to avoid names that are too general, that don't tell people specifically what you do. In that case, only if you know that the name itself won't help you make sales. It's not going to help you attract new customers because it's so general that they don't know what you do. Now, on the other side of things, you can get in things that make you a high-risk industry. So high-risk industries can be a lot of things. Anything in financial services, accounting, mortgages, credit, financial service or loans, any of those type of things. Real estate puts you in high-risk industries. So you want to avoid things that put you in high-risk industries. Porn, if you're dealing with pawn shops, all these type of things put you into high-risk industries. So let's take a look at some of these just to kind of go through. So Angela says the Angela Investment Corp. Fantastic. So what I like about this is that she deals with investments. So she went with a more specific idea of this is what I do. And if you're working with investments, that's a very good name. Now, this name with Investment Corp, Angela Investment Corp, obviously a play off her name. Okay, the great thing about this is it gives pretty good people a pretty good idea of what you do if you're actually in the investment business. The bad part about this is the word investment puts you into financial services, which makes it harder and throws up red flags when you go to get credit cards and loans, merchant accounts, bank accounts, because the word Investment Corp is there. Now, I also like this name that she's talking about, the Angela Investment Corp, if you're using it as an umbrella company and have other companies under you that are actually coming in and doing a bunch of different things. And Katrina, good morning. Okay, Jesse says credit's the future, success stories. Yes, when it comes to credit markets are crushing it right now. As you know, a lot of lenders have pulled back in the business lending space, and in the credit space, we are still rapidly seeing credit actually issued. So it really is a good time. So, mashed up names. You don't want to get names that are like a combination of other things. So for example, if you're choosing two names and you're just kind of combining things and mashing them up together, those oftentimes don't work as well. And even worse, is when you're coming in and deliberately misspelling the name. So don't get me wrong, there are companies like Toys R Us that's worked pretty successfully, just putting the letter R in there instead of A-R-E. But it's pretty tough because when you misspell your own name or misspell words, you have to explain that every time you talk to somebody. So for example, I don't even intend for that happening. When we named Credit Suite, we didn't really think that there was two spellings of the word sweet. So now every single time I talk to somebody and I need them to know exactly what our company name is, I have to spell it out. Credit Suite, S-U-I-T-E, because a lot of other people want to go and buy the other variant. Here's the other problem. Somebody was sneaky and smarter than me and grabbed the other spelling of our name. So you got to be very careful there. If you have a word that can have two different meanings, when you go and grab that URL, you need to make sure you grab the other spelling of the word. Credit Suite, S-U-I-T-E, right? We need to grab the other spelling of sweet as well, because by doing so, we make sure that if they go to either place, they can get to us. And if that's the case, then it's not too big of a deal. If we have Credit Suite, S-W-E-E-T, and we have that domain that forwards to our main domain, that's okay. But when you're choosing names for your company, here's how I do it. The very first thing you want to do is you want to think of a name that the URL is actually available. And that typically means you need to stay away from pretty specific terms, because specific terms will cost you a lot of money. So for example, if I'm going to go with Business Startup Accelerator or Startup Accelerator, more than likely that's going to be taken, or that's going to be very expensive for me to buy. So I've got to find something that's more creative, and I want to find something that the URL is available. Look, if you don't do that, you have all kinds of problems. I owned a company named Elite Credit. The problem is I didn't own EliteCredit.com. So every time I promoted my business, the other Elite Credit that owned EliteCredit.com was getting the business that I was driving to them. So rule number one, make sure that URL is available for your business name. When you're smaller, it might not be a big deal. But as your business gets bigger, it's going to be a really big deal when you don't own the URL, because just by saying your name, you're driving traffic to your competitor. You got to make sure it's available. If you have the URL for any name you think is creative, grab it. Okay, the next thing you want to do is you got to check your Secretary of State to see if that name is available. Here's the deal. Credit Suite, that name, could exist in all 50 states. Every state could have a company named Credit Suite, because you can set up a company as long as it's not set up in your state with that same name. Now, if Credit Suite exists in Florida, you could open a Credit Suite in California. But again, I have creditsuite.com, so if you do that and your company starts getting big, you're going to be pushing all of your business to me. So make sure the URL is available, and then you want to make sure that it's available in your state. Next, you've got to make a decision. You're going to go one of two ways. You're either going to go general, like we saw here, where Herman, what's up, buddy? I hope you're doing well, man. Thanks for tuning in. Herman kills it on the financing side with us as a partner. He helps a lot of people get money and helps make a lot of money for himself at the same time. So when we look here at Aaron's B&B management, for example, that's a very general term. So you can go general that doesn't specifically say what you do. That's one choice. And again, you're going to have an easier time getting supplier, and you're going to have an easier time getting credit. You're having an easier time getting loans. Or you can go to hyper specific, like the Angela Investment Corp, dealing with investments. Now you're the opposite side. Now you're telling people what you do, which is a huge strength, and it's going to attract a lot of people because your name alone says what you do, like Credit Suite. But the negative is it's harder to get merchant accounts. It's harder to get bank accounts. It's harder to actually come in and get a lot of the financing that you actually need. So let me see some of the other names here were dropped in. Jose Rodriguez. Where's Jose? He's my buddy. I haven't seen you in forever, buddy. Thanks for coming in. And Dell says, my company has loan in the title. My company helps people get out of foreclosure. Look, I think that's great, but you need to know the minute that you have loan in the title and you submit an application for credit and financing, you immediately have a red flag, because the term loan in your name is throwing up a red flag with the credit issuer or lender, notifying them that you are in financial services, which is seen as high risk. So that is part of the problem that you're actually going to experience. Now, Marie says level up group or level up coaching. I love both of these. Level up tells me as an entrepreneur that you're going to help me level up and get better. That's what I get from that. Even with coaching left out, I get that you are actually going to help me level up and help me improve with coaching even left out. But even Level Up Coaching works really good because it's even more specific. It says exactly what you actually do. And Dell says, by the way, I've signed up with you guys under Ashley Ann. That's awesome. I love Ashley Ann. She is fantastic. And thanks for signing up. I know you're going to love working with us. Okay, now Marie says Tier 1 enterprises. Example of a general term. By going with Tier 1 enterprises, we don't know what Maurice actually does, but you're not going to have problems with getting credit and financing. So this is what you need to know. You're going to make a decision of one of two things. Once you know the URL is available, you know it's available in your state, you either need to go general, which means your customers aren't going to know what you're going to do and it's going to have to be explained to them, or you're going to have a harder time getting financing if the name that you're choosing reflects that you're in a high-risk industry. So don't forget, we don't want mashed up names. We don't want misspelled names because we don't want to have to explain the spelling every time we're speaking to somebody. Now, you also need to make sure that you're trying to avoid the names, as I mentioned, with high-risk industries. Being more generic is okay. But if you're in ammunition, if you're in financial, if you're in political campaigns, if you're dealing with X-rated products, if you're dealing with these kind of things that put you in high-risk industries, it's going to create all kinds of issues. Now, something else you want to look at is your NAICS code. This is so important here. You need to make sure that you're choosing the right NAICS code for your business. Here's why. You choose it or it's chosen for you. So here's how NAICS codes work. First of all, you need to determine what your NAICS code is, and you need to use that specific designator every time you're talking about your industry. So what's the NAICS code? Well, the NAICS code and the SIC codes are codes used by our government to categorize your industry. Let me give you a perfect example of why these are used. SBA's PPP loans. We're all familiar with them, right? So one of the requirements that SBA had is that your employees need to be less than 500 to qualify for a PPP loan. They also had a requirement, I don't know if you noticed, but the requirement is that you also need to have employees that are equivalent to other people in your industry per your NAICS code. This is what the government is actually using NAICS codes for. You see, NAICS codes are used to make sure that the employees that you're saying that you have, the income and revenue that you're saying you have, the expenses that you're claiming are relative and are relatable to other industries in the same NAICS code. So if I come in and say that my NAICS code is X, and X usually has these kind of normal expenses, and then I'm claiming all kinds of crazy expenses on my taxes that are not common for other people in my industry per my NAICS code, it creates issues. Again, example is the SBA's PPP loan. You can get approved if your employee count is under 500. Requirement 2, the employees that you have, the count you have, needs to be relative to what we would expect to see with your NAICS code. If it's not, you get denied. That's how the government uses NAICS codes. But again, here's the problem. If you don't choose the NAICS code you have, it will be chosen for you. So let's say, for example, that I go to apply for a loan, and they ask what industry I'm in. And I say I'm in business credit. I have a huge problem right now because there is no NAICS code for business credit. So they are going to choose the one that they believe is the closest to what I actually told them I have. We don't want that to happen. Here's why. If it's a lender, what do you think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to choose a code that's closest that puts me into a low-risk industry or a high-risk industry where they can charge me more money? They're almost always going to choose an NAICS code that puts me in a higher risk industry where they can charge me more money. Here's what's even worse. Once they chose my NAICS code, they then use that code when they're submitting the information to the Small Business Financial Exchange, the credit bureaus. Now all of a sudden I'm pulling my D&B report and I'm seeing one or multiple NAICS codes for my business that weren't chosen by me. They were chosen by those lenders or credit issuers that I actually applied for. That's not what you want to happen. You want to choose your NAICS code, and then when it asks for your industry on any application for credit financing, you want to say what the exact industry is per the NAICS code, and you also want to come in and you also want to actually show the NAICS code. That's how you should apply. Let me give you an example. Great website I found here, right here. NAICS.com. NAICS.com. You could do a simple search. So let's just take a look here. Here's the general codes for these industries. But then there's all kinds of subcodes. So if I click on retail credit, for example, look at all of the companies that could classify as retail credit. So if I'm a furniture store, that I want to list myself as a furniture store, and I want to list that this is my NAICS code. But there's a lot of generals here as well, right? So let's say I'm in finance and insurance. How many people say that they're in the insurance industry or the finance industry? Well, look at this. This can be categorized a bunch of different ways. Look at all these sub-classifications, guys. Look at these. So if you say you're in finance when you apply for a loan, let's look at this. I'm coming in, I'm applying for a loan. They say what industry I'm in, and I say finance. Well, guess what finance could mean? Finance could mean any of these sub-industries, any of them. So when I choose finance, the lender and the credit issuer are going to make the choice themselves of whatever one of these they think are me, and then they're going to typically choose one that is higher risk. So what I want to do is not say I'm in finance. I want to come into finance and insurance, and I want to find out exactly where I am the best fit here and choose the one that is most relevant to me, so I'm not automatically put into one that doesn't apply to me. Here's another one. I see a lot of people that say, I'm going to come in and I'm going to say I do consulting, or I'm going to say I do educational services. A lot of people go with this route, but look at what happens. When we drill down educational services, look at educational services and all the sub-descriptors that are included. So I don't want to say I'm in educational services. I want to come in and choose specifically what I do. Professional and management development training, for example, if you're in coaching. Okay, maybe you want to come in and say, well, you're probably not a business school. So you can come into any of these and actually even drill them down and look a little bit further into those actual descriptions. You can see the actual the codes in the NAICS. You can see the index industries. You can see top businesses in these industries by sales to make sure that you are a top industry or that you are in the same kind of industry as other companies here. So you can see here that this really gives you a lot of information drilling down your actual NAICS code. So why is this such a big deal? It's a big deal because when I'm applying for credit or financing, I don't want to say I'm in educational services. I want to come in and specifically say that I'm educational services. I actually want to come in and say, for example, that I am in professional and management development training. I am going to, on my application, put this exact same description. Then I'm going to put parenthesis, NAICS code 611430, parenthesis. There's no way to confuse it if I say I'm in educational services / professional and management development training, or my industry is professional and management development training, parentheses, NAICS 611430. So you see what I'm saying? You want to be super specific on applications for credit and financing so they don't choose these things for you. Now I'm going to answer some questions. I'm going to come back and tell you where you need to enter this so it actually gets to where it needs to go. So Matthew says VP Virtual Solutions. Great. Again, not in a high-risk industry. Lets me know that you are dealing with something virtual. Marie says, what about real estate or properties in the name? Real estate or properties will put you in a high-risk industry when it comes to lending because real estate is considered to be financial services. Dell says, is foreclosure a red flag in the name? Yes, it is, because again, it puts you in financial services. Not to say it's bad. Remember, you need to choose. You're either going to have a harder time getting credit and financing because you choose a name that indicates you're in a high-risk industry like financial services, or you want your customers to know exactly what you do, even if it does actually come in and it actually matters even if it actually does come in and tells people what you do, it will tell your customers what you do even if it's high risk. And Earl says, does Credit Suite fall into the training industry? Yes, we actually consider ourselves to be a software service. So we actually come in and have chosen an NAICS code of software. But here's the thing, we could choose financial services, we could choose education, we could choose software. We chose software and we went all in on that NAICS code. Now, Letitia says, is there a way to update your NAIC for already established business? Yes, there is. Let's talk about it. Where can you use your NAICS code? Your tax returns. Your accountant is choosing the NAICS code for you if you don't tell them as well. So we told our accountant, here's our NAICS code. We've had our accountant go back and even update with a past business I've owned. I even had them update the NAICS code and backtrack it. Okay, but our NAICS code from inception of Credit Suite was always the same. We decided early and we stuck with it, and it was on our tax returns. Now your accountant can probably go back and update your past taxes with your NAICS code and your other future ones as well. So your accountant needs to know the NAICS code so it's on your actual tax returns. The next thing you should do is notify the actual reporting agencies what your industry code is. They're getting information from vendors. They're getting information from lenders. They're getting information from credit suppliers. This is why you can oftentimes pull your information through NAV or anywhere else and see that you have multiple NAICS codes. So as Letitia says, what happens then? I'll tell you what happens then. You dispute it with the business credit reporting agencies. So you dispute it and say, look, you have 5 NAICS codes here. That is not correct. Here's our NAICS code. And then whatever proof you have of that, you want to supply to them. So for example, when we had this happen and one bureau started showing multiple NAICS codes, we said that's not our NAICS. Our NAICS code is this. Here's exactly where we are categorized. They came back and said, sorry, we get this information from other parties. We're not going to update it. We said, okay. Here's our tax returns that show the proper NAICS code. Here's our other business credit reports with Dun & Bradstreet. Here's our ones with Equifax. Everybody has it right. You have it wrong. Please let us know why you are continuing to misrepresent our company. And you know what they did? They changed it. They removed all the NAICS codes and only kept us to 1. This is an ongoing battle. The credit bureaus will constantly try to update the wrong NAICS codes because you're not filling out the right company descriptor in your NAICS code when you're applying for credit and financing. The more you screw up what I just told you, the more you're going to continue to have multiple NAICS codes show up in your credit report. How you fix it is exactly what I showed you. You've got to pick your NAICS code down to the actual code itself. When you are applying for a loan, you come in and put technical and trade schools, NAICS code 6115. Take the question completely out of it. And when you do this on every application for credit and financing, you're probably not going to ever see anything else show up in your NAICS codes with the business reporting agencies. But if you don't do this, every credit issuer, every lender is choosing their own variation of what the NAICS code they think you're in, because you came in and said something general like the fact that you're in educational services. And then they said, okay, well, we don't know exactly which one of these you are, so we're going to choose the one that we like the best. That's not what you want to happen, but it only happens if you have the actual descriptor and NAICS code when you're actually applying. Okay, Vicky says, do you suggest changing company name that's already registered with the word investment? That's where it gets to be tricky. I like the word investment as an umbrella company. And it's not a bad idea to have an umbrella company that's like an investment company and smaller companies under it that are either your DBAs or that are owned by the main company that are more hyper-specific to what you do. Or you could do the opposite as well. You could have your main company be general and not have investment in it. So let's say, for example, I want to do, TLC Enterprises, right? My initials are TLC. TLC Enterprises is what I'm going to go with. That's general. But then under TLC Enterprises, it owns multiple other entities that are very specific to what I do. Ty Crandall's Business Credit, Ty Crandall's Business Loans, right? Oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't want my name in it. But let's say TLC Business Loans and TLC Business Credit. So now I own TLC Business Credit. You obviously know what I do because it's TLC Business Credit. That's my DBA that I'm choosing to use. But my main company with a Secretary of State and everything I apply for is the TLC Enterprises. That's a great way to do it. Have a general umbrella company with a neutral name and then have DBAs or smaller companies owned under it with specifically what you do. It tells your customers what you do, and whenever you apply for loans and credit, you can apply for your main umbrella company. So that's a great way to do that if you want to think about it. Do you change your name? That's where it gets a little bit tricky. You can do that, but you have to make a decision. Are you trying to get credit and financing easier, or do you want your customers to really clearly know what you need, what you do? That's the conscious decision you have to make. We chose Credit Suite knowing it was going to be harder for us to get credit financing, but we wanted our customers to know what we did. We knew that, and we fight that battle every day, but it's a battle to get loans, to get credit cards, to get merchant accounts, to get bank accounts. It's a battle to get those things because that is in our name. So it's just something to know. Earl says, my business name is E.T. Murray Enterprises, but I have a DBA as the Entrepreneur's Accounts. Boom, Earl. Didn't even read your post and still stole everything you just told me. Earl just summed it up. His business name is E.T. Murray Enterprises. Even the enterprise is exactly what I even said. It's freaky that I'm reading this after. And then he says, I have a DBA, the Entrepreneur's Accountants. You know he's an accountant because his DBA says he is, and that's what he uses to represent to his customers. But when he applies for credit financing, his main name is E.T. Murray Enterprises. That's exactly the best way to probably set it up. And Matthew says, I'm starting a real estate company. What name should I use for example? Well, again, I think that Earl just summed it up the best. His main company name is E.T. Murray Enterprises. Enterprises, anything like that that's so general that it tells people overall that, hey, you could do anything works, and then choose a DBA that actually tells specifically what you want to do, or create another entity under that with the specifics of exactly what you want to do. So remember some of these things we talked about. You don't want a name that's too generic, okay, unless if you want your customers to know what you do, but it's not bad to create a name that's generic, to have an umbrella company here that you then have DBAs under with the specifically what you do. That's the best outcome to be able to get the best results. Avoid misspelled names and mashed up names, any of those things, URLs that don't exist, or crazy URLs like you have the number 1 and you don't know if 1 is spelled out or the number 1 is there. You don't know that. You want to avoid that. But most importantly, of everything I've taught you today, you need to know what your NAICS code is. You need to figure this out today. Don't put this off. Go right here, naics.com. It's 100% for free. Okay, then from here, you want to find your actual category that you fit into, the general overall category that you actually want to fit into. You want to come here and choose. Then once you've actually chose this, let's say management of companies and enterprises. Let's choose this. So once we actually choose this, then we want to come in and specifically find out where exactly we are with our real NAICS code. And remember, any of these you can click on, you can really drill down from there. So that really is your homework. Now here's the same thing with SIC codes. Here's the difference. This was the older way of doing business. See how few codes there were? Then they came in and they created NAICS codes. See how many more categories that there are here? This is why NAICS codes were created, because there were more categories. Then they came in. A lot of people, again, say they're in educational services, for example. Okay, other services, exempt public administration. Let's look at other services, for example. A lot of people say other. Well, look at all the other. Electronics, computer and office machine repair, communication equipment, okay, reupholstery furniture, barbershops, beauty salons. I mean, there's a lot of these that you may actually come under. Professional organizations, business associations. Okay, then once we click on these, we get a pretty good descriptor. We even get the biggest companies out there, okay, in this space, so we can even see if that's close to an industry that we're in. So that is your homework for today. Choose your NAICS code. Once you've chosen one, done some research, make sure it's not in financial services, not in high risk, then what you want to do then is whenever you apply for credit financing or a supplier credit, anywhere you're putting that, where that data may get back to the reporting agencies, you want to include the exact industry per your NAICS apostrophe NAICS code with the code a second apostrophe. It's crazy. Not a lot of people do it. But you're not going to let lenders or credit issuers put you into a category that you're not in if you do it specifically that way. And Katrina says, NAICS.com. Thank you very much for sharing that here. Okay, what would my NAIC code be for investments? I don't know. It depends on what you're investing in, but let's take a look. It's a great question. So he just says, okay, what is my NAICS code for investments? Well, let's look at this. If we're looking at this, more than likely, we are going to see that you're going to be doing something in financial and insurance, right? So we're going to click on financial and insurance, and you're saying, I do investments. So here's the question, what kind of investments do you do? So let's look. Here's banks, here's credit unions, commercial banking, credit unions, sales financing, real estate credit, international trading. So it depends on the kind of investments that you're doing, right? Here's international trading. Here's securities and commodities, contracts, intermediation, and brokers. Here's investment banking and securities. So you can see here that the kind of investing you're doing is going to have to be drilled down. But it's a great example of what you just said, Vicky. Vicky says, hey, I'm in investments. Normally, I would say that on an application, investments. But as you just saw, there's how many subcategories for investments that you could fall into. This is why you have to be specific and figure out what your NAICS code is. Put it on your taxes moving forward. Put it on your taxes backdated. Update your business credit reports with it and make sure it's the same on every application so your actual real NAICS code can actually hold. Now, Matthew says, my credit's good, but my cards are high in usage. I want to use my credit as a PG. It will only work if you pay down your utilization. We've got a great program called the Credit Line Hybrid, where you can get up to $150,000 in no-doc credit lines, 0% rates for up to 18 months. Fantastic, but you need to have utilization below 40, preferably below 30%. If you don't, see if you can get your limits raised. See if you can spread your balances amongst your cards, but you really need to stay below that utilization to get that kind of program. And Matthew says, can you show NAICS for real estate flip and hold? I can take a look. Again, this is the same thing you could do here at NAICScodes.com or NAICS.com. I didn't see real estate here though, for some reason. So I don't want to hold everybody. Oh, here you go. Real estate, rental, and leasing, 53. And you can see that there's a lot of different categories here of what you're doing. Residential property managers. We've got consumer goods rental. I mean, a lot. This is all crazy. It's all under real estate and rental and leasing. So you're in code 53. Where you fall here depends on exactly what it is that you're doing. Whether, let's say, you're a residential property manager or office of real estate agents and brokers is right here. So 53.10.12 or 53.12.10 looks like where you're going to be best if you're looking at actual real estate agents and brokers. But again, guys, you see how it can get convoluted just because you say you're in real estate. You said you're in real estate. This is where everybody screws up. Everybody screws it up. You said you're in real estate. But the problem is what you don't realize is real estate actually has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 32. Okay, did anybody think about that? Did anybody come into this and think that there's 32 subcategories of real estate you could choose from? Nobody does. This is why loans and credit cards get turned down, ladies and gentlemen. This is the stuff the banks and credit guys don't want you to know. But this is how it works. You put real estate and there's 32 subcategories and they choose one that's probably not the best fit. Then they put that on your credit report. Now other people are thinking that you're doing some kind of property management when you're not. That's why today's important training is so important. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, everybody. If we can help you along the way, give us a call. We can help you build business credit for your EIN that's not linked to your social. We can help you get all kinds of financing, including credit lines for $150,000, okay, that are no doc with 0% rates for up to 18 months. We can help you with all kinds of other loans as well, all the way from SBA to account receivable and purchase order and inventory and everything else in between, stuff that's based just on your cash flow. We are the kings and queens of being able to get you the most money at the best terms by improving your fundability, by knowing things like we talked about today, choosing the right name for your business, the right NAICS code, all the way through to helping you build business credit and getting financing. If we can help you along the way, all you have to do is reach out to us, 877-600-2487, or visit us online at creditsuite.com. I will see you all back here in Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Here's the topics that we'll be soon diving into. How to start a business during a recession. I'm going to map out everything you need to know about it. We're going to talk about recession-proof business credit benefits, all the things you need to know about how business credit works, all the benefits most people don't know, and we're going to talk about the kind of credit you can get. And we're also going to be talking about how to get set up with the business credit reporting agencies for free without these guys charging you a bunch of money that you don't need to pay. We're going to be talking about that stuff over the next couple weeks here on Facebook. We go live Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern and live Thursday about 11:15 Eastern. So I will be seeing you next week. Matthew says, how much do you charge to help with funding? We don't charge you any money to help with loans and credit lines. So if you come to town and you want to actually qualify for funding, we don't charge you anything. The lender and credit insurer oftentimes pays us a referral fee, but it's still cheaper to work with us than them because we do so much volume that we get discounts and we pass that volume to you. So we do have a business credit program that will cost money, an investment. We do have a partner program where you can offer business credit and financing as a service that has an investment as well. And the investments vary depending on which package you choose. But when it comes to just getting a loan or a credit line, we never charge you money for that, and we get you better pricing than you get at the source themselves because, again, we do so much volume, we pass that on to you. So if we can help you, 877-600-2487, creditsuite.com, and we will be back here live on Facebook Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.